Hello everyone, and welcome back to SunMoon Audiobook, the channel where we share wisdom and inspiring book journeys to help you grow and develop your best self, inside and out. What if the story you've been telling yourself, the one about your limits, your worth, your future, isn't the whole story? What if the truths you quietly repeat to yourself in the dark? I'm just not good at this. I always mess up. People like me don't make it errant truths at all, but echoes of old beliefs someone handed you, long before you even knew you had a choice. Imagine a seed in the dirt. It doesn't look like much, does it? Just a small, quiet thing, rough, unimpressive. But inside, something magnificent is hidden. Not a fully formed flower, not yet. Just a possibility, a whisper of color, a vision written in potential. And that seed, it becomes everything if the conditions are right. If it's not told, you're just a seed. You'll never bloom. If someone or something offers it, water, warmth, time, space, you are that seed. And Carol Dweck's message, the heartbeat of her life's work in mindset, is this: you are not finished. You are becoming. Not broken, not limited, not defined by what has been, but growing, learning, changing if you allow yourself to. Let's talk, just you and me, like two old friends who've been through it. Like we're sitting at a kitchen table after midnight, coffee in hand, silence thick with unspoken questions. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you've been wondering if you're just not the kind of person who figures it out. I want to offer you something softer than judgment, something stronger than motivation. A new lens, not to pressure you, but to free you. Not to fix you, but to finally see who you are underneath the old stories. Let me tell you what I've learned. There are two ways we tend to see ourselves, and we often don't even realize we're choosing one. The first says, you either have it or you don't. Intelligence, talent, personality, lovability, all fixed traits. Like a stamped coin. Like height. You were measured at birth, and the verdict is in. You spend your life proving your worth or hiding your shortcomings. You avoid challenges that might expose your limits. You dread failure because it feels final. You believe struggle is a sign something is wrong with you. That's the fixed mindset. And it can be so quiet, so subtle, that you don't even hear it forming your decisions. Then there's the second way of seeing. It whispers, you're not finished. It says intelligence isn't something you have or don't, it's something you build. That talent isn't innate, it's grown, layer by layer, through effort, feedback, curiosity, and practice. That struggle is a sacred space where growth happens. That failure is not a verdict, it's data. That's the growth mindset. And the beautiful, terrifying thing is that we can choose it, again and again. You, who are listening right now, I don't know what you've been through. I don't know who told you that you weren't enough, or when you started believing it. But I do know this. You are not stuck. You are not too late. You are not your mistakes. You are in motion. And motion means possibility. Let me tell you about a boy named Kyle. In 3rd grade, Kyle was told by his teacher that he wasn't reading material. She said it in front of the whole class, just a little shrug, a careless comment. But to Kyle, it was everything. He stopped raising his hand, stopped trying. His grades slipped, and by middle school, he had already quietly decided, I'm just not smart. By the time he hit high school, he wore that belief like armor. He didn't try because trying would prove he couldn't. It felt safer to not care. You can't fail if you never show up. But one teacher, Mr. James, saw something different. He gave Kyle a copy of Mice and Men and said, I think you're going to feel something in this. No quiz, no pressure, just a gentle invitation. Kyle read it, slowly, twice. Then he came back and said, it made me feel heavy, like I saw myself in it. Mr. James nodded and said, that means you're a reader. That means you're alive in the story. That sentence cracked something open. Kyle started trying again. Not because someone forced him, but because someone changed the story. Not you're smart or you're behind. Just, you're alive in this. And that aliveness, it grew. By the time he graduated, he'd written 3 short stories of his own. This is the power of shifting mindsets. It doesn't take a miracle. It just takes one door, one new lens, one voice saying, "You're not fixed in place. You're growing." You see, the growth mindset isn't about pretending you're good at everything. It's about understanding where change begins, that learning hurts sometimes, that it's supposed to. There's a phrase Dweck uses again and again, and I want you to hold it close. Not yet. I love those 2 words. They hold space for hope. When you say, "I can't," it ends the sentence. But when you say, "I can't yet," you open a door. You plant a seed. I'm not confident yet. I don't know how to lead yet. I haven't healed yet. Can you feel the difference? One makes you shrink. The other makes you breathe. It reminds me of how we speak to children and how deeply our words shape their inner world. So many of us were praised for being smart, gifted, talented. It sounds like love. But those words, they can become cages, because if being smart is who you are, then failure feels like death. If you make a mistake, maybe you're not smart after all. You start avoiding risk, avoiding growth, because growth always involves stumbling. But when we praise effort, process, strategy, resilience, we tell a different story. One that says, you're not here to prove you're enough. You're here to become. And that difference, it can change a life. There's a story Dweck tells about a group of children given puzzles to solve. Some were easy, some hard. The children who had been praised for intelligence chose the easier puzzles. They didn't want to fail. They wanted to keep being smart. But the children who were praised for effort, they chose the harder ones. They said things like, "I love a challenge, and I'm learning a lot here." Think about that. Think about what it means for how we move through the world, because we don't outgrow this. Adults do it too in boardrooms, in relationships, in creative work. We avoid the thing that might stretch us. We fear being seen as a beginner. We hide behind perfectionism, procrastination, cynicism when underneath, we're just scared of not being enough. And it's okay to feel that fear. But what matters is what we do with it. What if we let ourselves begin again? What if we walk toward the thing that scares us? Not because we're sure we'll succeed, but because we're open to learning. Because here's the truth. Growth isn't clean. It's messy, awkward, full of failures and detours and wrong turns. But it's also beautiful. There's a softness in trying again, a kind of quiet rebellion against shame, a defiant whisper that says, "I am still becoming." And when you give yourself permission to become not all at once, not perfectly, but moment by moment, something extraordinary begins to unfold. You start to notice where the old beliefs live. The ones that told you to play small. The ones that kept you quiet. You begin to see that they are not facts. They are patterns. And patterns can be rewritten. That voice that once said, "I'm not cut out for this," you might hear it and answer, "That's just fear." And fear isn't always right. That moment where you used to retreat from the interview, the conversation, the canvas, the page, now becomes an opportunity, a doorway. Not because you're suddenly fearless, but because you've decided to walk with the fear instead of letting it drive. That's the magic of the growth mindset. It doesn't take away your fear. It teaches you to move anyway. And something begins to shift, not just inside you, but around you. Your relationships change. Because now, instead of needing to be right all the time, you're curious. Instead of guarding your ego, you're asking better questions. Instead of seeing conflict as threat, you start to see it as an opportunity for clarity, connection, repair. You become someone who listens, who reflects, who grows in love, not just ambition. And that changes everything. Carol Dweck doesn't just talk about achievement. She talks about being human in a way that allows you to keep expanding, to keep unfolding into more of yourself, especially when the world tells you to shrink. And this isn't just some nice idea. This is neuroscience. When you choose to try again, when you take a risk, when you reflect instead of retreat, your brain literally rewires. New pathways form. New habits take root. You become a little more resilient, a little more alive. It's not magic, it's practice. But here's the beautiful part. It gets easier. Like a muscle, the more you use your growth mindset, the more natural it becomes. It won't always be this hard. And in time, what once felt impossible just becomes part of who you are. So I want to speak to the part of you that's still doubting. The part that hears all this and still thinks, but what if I'm the exception? What if I really am stuck? Friend, hear me. There is no fixed version of you. Not the anxious version, not the messy version, not even the broken version. You are not carved in stone. You are a living, breathing, becoming thing. Like a river that bends and twists through rocks and hills, you will keep finding new paths forward. You may not see the ocean yet, but trust it's there. I'll say it again. You are not finished. You are becoming. And that becoming is your birthright. So take a moment now. A deep, full breath. Place your hand on your chest, if that feels okay. Feel your heartbeat. Feel your aliveness. That's the sound of possibility. And if today all you can do is breathe and believe that growth is available to you, that is enough. That is everything. Let that belief, even if it's fragile, guide your next step. Because growth doesn't come in grand gestures. It comes in the quiet choices. The choice to stay in the conversation. The choice to try again. The choice to believe, just for one more day, that you are allowed to change. That you are worthy of transformation. That you are already, even now, in the process of becoming something whole and holy and new. And maybe, just maybe, that's what success really is. Not achievement, not status, but the willingness to keep unfolding. To keep loving yourself through the process, to keep showing up tender and unfinished and say, I'm here, I'm learning, I'm not giving up. So let me leave you with this image. Imagine a ripple in a still lake. It starts so small, just a drop, but it expands outward in perfect circles, further than you'd expect. Quietly, steadily, it touches the whole surface. Your mindset is that ripple. Each time you choose to grow, to try, to believe in your own becoming, you send waves into your life, into your work, your relationships, your future children, your community. You may not see the impact right away, but it's happening. You are creating movement. So plant the seed, trust the ripple, speak the mantra, I am not finished, I am becoming, and let that be the story you live. You who are listening right now, maybe you've been carrying a story that says you're not the type to succeed, not the smart one, not the disciplined one, not the creative one. Maybe you've been measuring yourself against someone else's timeline, someone else's definition of success. Maybe every time you try, that old voice returns. You're too late. You're not enough. Why even bother? But let me tell you something, and I want you to hear this not just in your mind, but in your chest, where the ache lives. You are not a failure. You're just not there yet. Growth is not a straight line. It doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like standing still, like going backward, like peeling off everything that's familiar just to find something real. And that is still growth. That is still sacred. Let's pause here in this messy, uncertain middle. Let's sit in that tension between who you've been and who you're becoming. This is the heart of it all. The part Dweck's work names but doesn't romanticize. The in-between. It's where you'll want to quit, where the discomfort is loudest, where the old mindset fights for its life. It's where healing begins. And the truth is, you don't need to conquer the mountain today. You don't need to be perfect, or fearless, or even sure. You just need to take one honest step forward. One new response to an old fear. One moment of saying, I choose to grow, even if it's uncomfortable. Think of someone like Serena Williams. At her peak, she still trained like a beginner. She didn't rest on her talent. She refined her craft daily. That's growth mindset. Not just believing you can get better, but showing up like it matters. Because it does. Or take someone like John Legend. He wasn't discovered overnight. He spent years playing in the background, writing for others, honing his voice. He wasn't waiting for permission. He was building. Quietly, patiently, unshakably. So many of the people we admire aren't where they are because they were born special, but because they refused to stop becoming. They faced rejection, self-doubt, and failure, and they stayed in the game. You can too. Let me share another story, a quiet one, but powerful. There was a woman named Lena. She had spent most of her adult life believing she was bad with people. Social situations made her anxious. Public speaking terrified her. Even speaking up in meetings felt like climbing Everest. One day, she heard a talk about growth mindset. Not in a flashy TED Talk, but at her son's school, where a teacher explained it to a group of parents. Something about it stuck. That night, Lena wrote in her journal, maybe I'm not bad with people. Maybe I've just never learned how to be comfortable in myself. She decided to do one small thing a day to challenge that belief. One smile to a stranger, one question asked in a meeting, one short speech at a local community event. It was messy. She stumbled. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. A year later, she stood in front of her entire department and gave a training on inclusive communication. And when someone asked how she became so confident, she smiled and said, "Oh, I'm still learning. But I've learned how to show up scared." That's what growth looks like. Not bravado, not instant transformation. Just showing up scared, again and again. And with every step, every awkward stumble forward, that old voice fades. The one that said, "You're not enough." The one that demanded perfection. Because the more you practice growing, the less power that voice holds. And here's something else Dweck teaches us. The growth mindset isn't about being endlessly positive. It's about being deeply honest. Honest enough to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I've failed, but I'm not finished. I'm afraid, but I won't disappear. That's real courage. That's what change is made of. So let's talk about what this actually looks like in your life, not in theory, but in practice. Small, doable actions. Because mindset isn't a switch you flip. It's a pattern you repeat, a habit you choose. It's in the way you respond when something's hard. It's in what you tell yourself when you get it wrong. It's in whether you ask for help or shrink back in shame. So here's a few gentle invitations, just for you. When you fail at something, pause and ask, what did this teach me? Even if the answer is small, write it down. That's growth. When you catch yourself thinking, I'm not good at this, add yet. Say it out loud, let it live in your body. When you admire someone's skill, resist the urge to say they're so talented. Try. I wonder how long they practiced. I wonder what their path looked like. Let curiosity replace comparison. At the end of each week, write down one thing you tried even if it didn't work. Celebrate the trying. Talk to yourself like someone you love. Not perfectly, just gently. And maybe most importantly, surround yourself with people who believe in growth. People who don't expect perfection. People who are okay with the mess, who say me too instead of you should have. Because mindset grows in context, in community, in compassion. And if you don't have those people, yet let this be a start. Let this moment, this voice in your ear, be a seed. You don't have to believe in yourself completely yet. Just enough to try. Remember this mantra. You are not a finished product. You are a work in progress. There is so much tenderness in that. So much power. Because when you stop needing to prove yourself, you free yourself to become.